Welcome to RED35, and today we are looking at one of the most iconic Zeiss lenses in modern days, the Distagon ZM 35mm for your Leica. So here it is. I want to talk about this particular lens, and I'm not going to go through all the technical gritty bitty about the optical formula or things like that. And many of you know that I use my Leica a lot in the past, and even nowadays I still use it for a lot of the street shot and documentary stuff. It has been one of my work tools. I have used Leica, for many years now, and I have to say that the Zeiss Distagon ZM35 1.4 is one of the greatest lenses that I have ever used in terms of performance, and also, most importantly, value for money. I have to say that, I don't want to do a direct comparison, but I have used, the equivalent in the Leica terms, the very famous and popular Summilux 35mm. That lens is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, that lens is absolutely stunning. You know that I like to use the word organic, and that lens is very organic and very lovely rendering, and the bokeh is very creamy when you shoot at 1.4. But there's a but though, there's actually a couple of buts. First of all, let's talk about price. I know if you're using Leica, price isn't usually come into the equation, but for me, or for any photographer who are just getting into rangefinder system, you're looking at Leicas or M mount lenses or M mount cameras. If you just look at some of the kind of equivalents out there, 35mm 1.4, there are only a few options out there. The Voigtlander 35mm Nocturne, then you have the Zeiss Distagon, and you also have the Leica Summilux. So out of these three lenses, and then Leica obviously the most expensive. Nowadays in the UK, you're probably looking at just under £4,000, and then the Voigtlander is around about £1,000, and then you have the Distagon, which is kind of somewhere in the middle, but still a lot less than Leica at around £1,500. In terms of build quality, and I think this lens is stands on its own. It's actually very well built. The damping effect on this focusing ring is super silky smooth. If I wouldn't, I'm not exaggerating, it's actually as good as the Leica. And in fact, I've used so many Leica lenses before, and over time it will actually get loosened. That may or may not be a good thing. I know a lot of people can argue with that, but I'm not here trying to debate which way is better. But for some reason, I've used this Zeiss lens a lot. I'm not joking. I've taken thousands and thousands of frames in it, and then this focusing thing doesn't get loose at all. It still feel very damped. I have the Voigtlander also, and that will also get loosened as well over time, and this doesn't. For some reason, I don't know what they've done to it, and it just doesn't get loose. So it feels very good. The aperture ring is very clicky. You know exactly what sort of aperture you'll be using if you kind of have that muscle memory, which is also very good. I would say the only concern, like all the other manual lenses, is not weather sealed, but none of them are anyway. Even though the modern day Leica digital bodies are weather sealed, but no lenses are. So which is kind of a bit weird. But again, being a Leica manual lens, I don't think weather elements going to come into it unless you're shooting in heavy rain. So build quality, absolutely top mark. It can rival Leica. That's how I can say it. And of course, if you're spending that much money, you'll be questioning yourself about image quality. As a professional photographer, professional Leica photographer, I would actually say the Zeiss will not disappoint at all. It's super sharp. In fact, if you I mean, I don't do pixel peeping, but if you look at print after print, you actually find that the Zeiss is actually a little bit sharper compared to the Summilux at wide open at 1.4. It would definitely destroy in terms of sharpness compared to the Voigtlander. Voigtlander has its own goodness, but like in terms of pure sharpness, this thing is, I think, the best among the crowd. When you stop down, I think they're very equal. If you stop down to 2.8 or 5.6, I think they're all very, very equal. Leica may actually come a little bit sharper actually when it stops down, but and a lot of you guys would like the 1.4 look, so Zeiss will definitely give you the sharper images. But then if you're looking at the bokeh, equality, I do think the Leica is actually slightly creamier, slightly more organic, which I kind of personally prefer. The Zeiss can sometimes gets a little bit busy, but again, that's more personal stuff. And but for me, I like to use this lens because it pops more, I think, to do with the sharpness that this lens produces, which is great for separations if you need that sort of thing. But for me, and I just prefer the slightly sharper images in this case for some of the documentary work that I do. Hence, I actually think this is a better lens overall. And if you're looking for something that has very, very high resolving power as well, and this lens will also deliver because it has very, very high micro contrast, which means that it will resolve all these minute details in the frame. And even though that all the Leicas has only 24 megapixels resolutions, but I can easily say that this lens can out-resolve the 24. In the future, if Leica does up the megapixels into 30 or maybe whatever, I think this lens will actually prove to be timeless, because it can continue to perform when you have higher resolutions in the future. How about the handling of this lens? And I guess this is probably the only complaint I have about the Zeiss, is because it's a little bit heavy, and also because Leica is famous for a slim body, and when you mount this onto the the M240 or even the latest M10, you will find this lens is a little bit front heavy. So very easy to tell. If you look at this camera, just doing that, you can see it's already front heavy. So compared to the Summiluxes, which is actually slightly more balanced when you use on the M body, this is just the opposite way. Very similar to the Voigtlander. Voigtlander also front heavy, but apart from that, I think the handling is okay. And also, there's something I want to highlight to you guys. Well, while the Summiluxes actually, when you focus, you extend or retract depending on whether you focus infinity or closest. Both the Zeiss and the Voigtlander doesn't. No matter how much you turn it, the lens remains the same length. That may or may not be good, because sometimes if you want to, during travel, you want to put it into your bag, your Leica will be slightly slimmer for transportation purposes. You can just set it to infinity, or kind of go to the shortest length. But this thing is always this long. I don't know, it's up to you guys, but that's probably my only concern. That's it, just heavy. One more thing I want to highlight to you guys is, which may or may not concern you if you're not familiar with rangefinder cameras and lenses especially, because most of the coupled lenses, they have a minimum focusing distance of 7 centimeters for most of the standard and wide lenses, which means that you cannot get too close compared to some of the more modern mirrorless cameras, which you can shoot at 2 centimeters or 3 centimeters away, which is kind of ridiculous. But on the rangefinder lenses, the closest you can get possibly is around 7 centimeters or 1 meter. So it's not very close. But it's all right. However, having said that though, Voigtlander is the only rangefinder couple lenses that can shoot 0.5 meter, not centimeters, which is actually quite close for a rangefinder lens. However, because it's couple, if you want to shoot close for Voigtlanders, you have to use the live view or the EVF, which is something that may or may not concern you as well.
through the fields of our paths. Feelings part our ways, keeping us close but estranged now. Dreams holding us closer, meadows of our youth.
Would I recommend the Zeiss Distagon ZM 35mm 1.4? And the easy answer is yes. And if you're looking for something ultra fast like 1.4 at 35mm for your M mount camera, or actually via adapter you can use it on any camera these days, like the Sony or Fuji or anything like that, this lens would definitely outperform your expectations. Let's put it that way. I think the image quality is excellent. You know, I did have a little bit concern about the bokeh quality, but you know that's actually irrelevant because depending on what you shoot anyway, what your style and what your feel that you're looking for me, I like it. But if you have a direct comparison to Leica, for instance, I mentioned earlier, you know, Leica does produce slightly creamier bokeh. This is still very, very extremely good. Sharpness is second to none. So, you know, I just love this lens, and it has been my workhorse and on my M for, you know, for the past few years since it first released. It's just brilliant. You know, I actually sold my Summilux and I actually kept this. That's how good this is. So I really like it, and I really, really recommend this lens if you are looking for something, you know, this good. If you wonder where my hat was, and it's gone. I lost it in a bus. I left it there, so it's gone forever. So if in the meantime you might have to bear with my messy hair until I get my new hat. And if you want to sponsor my hat, let me know. Put down your description down below. And if you like the video, and remember to subscribe our channel for more, and click that bell button to stay notified so you know whenever we have a new video coming out. So until next time, I'll see you then. Bye. One of the most iconic Zeiss lenses in recent days. Right, if you are looking for a very, very fast and high quality 35mm for your M mount camera, whether it's film, digital Leica, or what am I doing? If you wonder, okay, 1, 2, 3. Subscribe to our channel, and you know, click the bell button and